Under the burning light of the twin suns, the Galactic Council Hall stood like a jewel of power and arrogance. It was a place where the greatest civilizations of the galaxy gathered to pass judgment, to decide the fate of worlds with the flick of a claw, tentacle, or steel-plated finger. Today, however, the air inside the vast chamber was heavier than usual. A silent tension ran through the crowd of alien delegates, each sitting in their hovering platforms that circled the colossal center floor. The High Speaker, a towering being with eyes like molten gold and a voice that could shake the air, slammed his staff against the marble-like floor. The sound echoed through the vast chamber, like thunder rolling through the void. All movement stopped. The High Speaker's voice cut through the silence, deep and sharp. People of Earth, you stand accused of defiance against the authority of the Galactic Council. You have ignored the summons to comply with the Unified Security Pact. You have refused to dismantle your planetary defenses. You've rejected integration into the Council fleet. By our laws, this is rebellion. And rebellion is punishable by destruction. All around the chamber, the other delegates shifted in their seats. Whispers and clicks filled the air. The sounds of countless alien tongues murmuring the same conclusion. No species had ever refused the Council and survived. Humanity, small and new to the stars, could not possibly hope to stand against the combined military strength of the galaxy. But Earth's representative, Ambassador Kara Holt, stood in the center of the hall with the calmness of a person who had already seen the end of this conversation. She was human through and through, with sharp eyes and a posture that refused to bend. She wore no armor, carried no visible weapon. Her presence carried a weight that unsettled even the largest predators in the chamber. "We decline," she said simply, her voice carrying far despite the lack of amplification.
The words hung
In the air like an electric charge. A ripple of shock moved through the alien platforms. Some laughed, their strange voices barking and chittering in disbelief. Others hissed in outrage. One delegate, a massive reptilian warlord with scars crisscrossing his scaled face, leaned forward and bared his teeth. "You decline? Do you understand what we are offering you, human? Protection of the Council? The trade of worlds? Got security of our fleets. Without us, you are a flicker in the dark, ready to be snuffed out." Kara's gaze never wavered. "Without us, you might not have survived this long." Her words were strange, and they landed like an unexpected blow. The reptilian warlord froze, unsure if he had heard her correctly. Whispers rose again, louder this time. The High Speaker narrowed his molten eyes. "You make bold claims, Earthborn. But boldness without strength is nothing but noise. You have 7 standard days to surrender your sovereignty. Fail to do so, and your world will be erased from existence. The galaxy will not remember your name." Small, almost amused smile touched Kara's lips. She inclined her head, not in submission, but in acknowledgement. "Before you send your fleets high, Speaker, check your own histories. Check the records you have buried so deep you've forgotten why they were hidden in the first place. Then decide if you still wish to come for us." She turned and walked toward the exit platform without another word, the heavy stares of hundreds of species burning into her back. Up in the highest row of seats, an alien with skin-like shifting. Glass leaned toward his neighbor, a shadowy admiral in dark ceremonial armor. His voice was low, almost fearful. "They don't know, do they?" The admiral's expression didn't change, but his silence was answer enough. As Kara's platform descended toward the Earth's delegation's docking bay, she passed rows of alien guards, each watching her with a mix of confusion and contempt. Some muttered insults under their breath. Others avoided her eyes entirely. She felt none of their hate, none of their superiority was meaningless to her. What mattered was that the bait had been taken. The Council's curiosity would now do more damage than any weapon. On the far side of the chamber, as the meeting dispersed, the High Speaker conferred with his inner circle. "Ordered the archivists to prepare all files on the humans," he commanded. "I want to know every battle, every conflict, every enemy they have ever faced." A smaller counselor, nervous and sweating, cleared his throat. "High Speaker, some of those files are sealed. Unseal them." The High Speaker's tone allowed no argument. If there is something we do not know about these mammals, I want it before the sun rises again. It's far above the council. Whirled in the shadow of a massive orbital station. The admiral, who had remained silent during the meeting, stood at a darkened viewport, staring into the endless star field. His aide approached quietly. "Sir, do you think the humans will fight?" The admiral's voice was cold, steady. "The humans never bluff. If they say they will fight, they will fight. The question you should be asking is not if they will fight, but why they are so sure they will win." On Earth, Ambassador Kara stepped off her shuttle onto the landing pad of Earth Defense Command. The sky above was a deep twilight blue, the first stars appearing. Waiting for her was General Elias Ward, a tall man with silver in his hair and steel in his eyes. "Did they take the bait?" he asked without preamble. Kara allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. "Oh, they took it. And when they dig, they'll find the truth we wanted them to find." Ward nodded, glancing up at the night sky as if he could already see the movements of enemy fleets on the horizon of space. "Then we have 7 days to be ready." Somewhere, far away in the depths of the galaxy, an alien archivist sat alone in a dimly lit chamber. Before him was a sealed data vault, glowing faintly with warning runes that hadn't been touched in centuries. His trembling hands entered the override. Codes. The vault door hissed open, revealing ancient records files so old they were written in languages no longer spoken. The archivist opened the first one. He read for less than a minute before his face went pale. His breathing quickened. His eyes darted around the empty room, as if expecting shadows to move. He closed the file, but it was too late. The knowledge was in his mind now. It terrified him. Beneath the heart of the Galactic Council's central world, far away from the glittering halls of power and ceremony, the archives stretched for miles in every direction. Few had ever seen them. Air here was cool and stale, carrying the faint scent of ancient dust and old machine oil. The light was dim, filtered through layers of protective shielding, and the only sound was the quiet hum of stasis fields, holding centuries of forbidden knowledge in place. Archivist Varen moved slowly between the towering shelves, his clawed hands trembling slightly. He had been chosen, no ordered, to retrieve the hidden records on the human species. It was not a task he had asked for. Every archivist knew that some knowledge was locked away for a reason. There were stories whispered in dark corners about information so dangerous, so unsettling, that even the Council's mightiest warlords avoided speaking of it. But Varen's orders had come directly from the High Speaker himself, and there was no refusing that command. The sealed vault stood before him now, its surface covered in old warning glyphs that shimmered faintly as if they were alive. Some of the symbols were so ancient that even the universal translators refused to touch them. Varen hesitated, his breath coming in short bursts. Finally, with a shudder, he pressed his palm to the scanning panel. The vault recognized the override. Codson released a soft hiss, unlocking for the first time in over 200 years. Inside lay rows of crystalline data cores, each glowing faintly in the gloom. The one he sought was marked with a red band, the color reserved for matters of extreme danger. He slid it free and placed it in the reader. The core's light expanded, filling the chamber with flickering holographic images. The first record was not of humans as they were now, but of something older. A war vast and terrible raged across a galaxy that was not yet shaped as it is today. Armadas of alien ships burned through star systems, and whole worlds vanished under planetary bombardment. And yet through all the destruction, a single species seemed to keep appearing on every battlefield, in every desperate fight, even in conflicts that were not their own, the humans. But these were not the humans of today, no planetary government. Up inside for when at for with them and with and for I will and for ad for rent and out for I'm set with for fight I have die where I have for sin with for the we've with for substances. They were scattered, fragmented, and yet unstoppable. Whenever they fought, they adapted. When outnumbered, they improvised. When cornered, they became something far more dangerous than anyone had planned for. The more Varen watched, the more a sick, icy dread formed in his chest. One scene burned itself into his mind. An alien empire. Mighty and ancient, laying siege to a human colony. The invaders had every advantage, superior weapons, even the element of surprise. Within days, the humans should have been broken. Instead, the siege lasted years. And when the Empire's last ship fled the system, less than 1/10 of their soldiers remained alive. The colony itself was still there, scarred but unbroken. Varen leaned back from the projection, his throat tight. This was not the behavior of a prey species. This was not even the behavior of a warrior race in the traditional sense. This was something far worse, a species that did not stop when survival was assured. They fought until the enemy was not only beaten, but incapable of returning for generations. He shut the core and sealed it back into its casing. But the images lingered in his mind like a fever. He now understood why the files had been hidden, and why the humans' refusal to surrender had not been a bluff, it had been a warning. Across the Council world, in the shadowed chambers of the military high command, Admiral Sarith received the first partial summaries from the archives. He read them in silence, his expression unreadable. His aide, a young officer with bright, curious eyes, waited impatiently.
How?
The aide asked finally. Are they dangerous enough to be worried about? Sarith closed the file and stood, walking to the viewport where the glow of the city spread out below like a blanket of stars. His voice was low, heavy. Dangerous is not the word. The humans are inevitable. Meanwhile, light years away. On Earth, Kara Holt stood with General Ward in the underground war room of Earth Defense Command. Maps of space filled the walls, glowing red where known Council fleets were stationed. Ward's voice was calm but firm. The moment they see the truth in their records, they'll change their plan. They won't just attack, they'll try to contain us first. They'll come with overwhelming force, hoping to crush us before the rest of the galaxy remembers why they fear us. Kara nodded. And that's exactly what we want. We'll make the first move while they're still deciding how scared they should be. Up in orbit, Earth's defense stations began to power up, their weapon systems cycling through readiness checks. Deep in the asteroid belt, hidden shipyards stirred to life, releasing black, silent warships that vanished into the darkness between. Worlds humanity was not preparing to survive. They were preparing to win. In the deepest vault of the archives, far below the surface of the Council's world, Varen lingered in the dark after resealing the chamber. His instincts screamed at him to forget what he had seen. But he knew the Council would not stop here. They would open more files. When they did, they might discover the part of the history even he had not dared to look at. The part that explained what happened to the last empire that had tried to erase humanity and why. After all these centuries, no one had ever found the ruins. The Council chamber was a cathedral of power-vast stone arches, shimmering banners from 100 worlds, and the unblinking gaze of the galaxy's most feared leaders. Yet for all its grandeur, the air tonight felt tense, brittle, as if one wrong word could splinter the entire alliance apart. High Speaker Drellis stood at the center, her long silver robes catching the faint light from the chamber's suspended orbs, her voice deep and measured, carried across the marble floor. We have the human records. We have seen what they are capable of. The question before us is simple. Do we strike now, or do we attempt to contain them through diplomacy? A ripple of uneasy murmurs moved through the assembly. The delegates from the Varak, Dominion Great, reptilian creatures with scarred hides leaned forward in their seats. Lord Commander Erix, their leader, hissed sharply. Diplomacy? Them? You've read the same reports we have? Humans don't negotiate unless they're buying time to sharpen their knives. Strike first, strike hard, and end them before they become what they were centuries ago. Across the chamber, the Illyri ambassador, tall and graceful with skin like polished crystal, shook her head slowly. And if your strike fails, do you not remember the siege of Marrow Gate? They were outnumbered 100-1, and still they won. Imagine what they will do if we are the ones to provoke them. Argument began to swell, voices overlapping, claws scraping on the polished benches, the heavy thump of warlords shifting restlessly. No one noticed Admiral Sarith sitting silently near the edge of the chamber, his face calm, his mind already racing through possibilities. He had read every word of the human file. He understood something the others did not. Problem to be solved. They were a force to be managed. Meanwhile, lighters away on Earth, the skies over the Atlantic shimmered faintly as a fleet of black, angular ships broke through the upper atmosphere. They were ghost-built without civilian knowledge, constructed in secret yards buried deep within the asteroid belt. Their hulls were coated in a strange, light-swallowing material, making them nearly invisible to the naked eye. In the war room, General Ward stood over the central display, watching as the icons representing those ships vanished from standard council tracking grids. Kara Holt, standing beside him, smiled faintly. They won't even know we're coming until we're already inside their defense perimeter. Ward's eyes stayed locked on the map. That's the idea. We don't just survive their first strike. We take their nerve before the second. Back in the council chamber, the debate had reached a breaking point. Some species, like the iron-skinned Calvar, demanded an immediate show of force burn Earth's orbital defenses to ash, cripple its infrastructure, and drag its leaders to the council in chains. Others urged a slower approach, trade sanctions, economic pressure, targeted assassinations. High Speaker Draelis finally raised her voice, cutting through the noise. Enough. We will decide nothing in chaos. Admiral Sarith, you have studied them more than any of us. What is your recommendation? Every eye in the chamber turned to the Admiral. He stood slowly, clasping his hands behind his back. His voice was quiet, almost conversational, but it carried across the chamber with absolute clarity. If you attack them now, you will bleed for centuries. If you wait, you will bleed for millennia. Either way, there will be blood. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. So the real question is not how to fight the humans. It is whether you are prepared to pay the price. Silence fell like a curtain. Even the most war-hungry delegates hesitated, but in the darkness beyond the council's shining world, humanity's fleets were already moving silent, patient, and utterly without mercy. The council's decision came cloaked in the language of diplomacy, but no one in the chamber truly believed it. They called it a peace delegation, yet the fleet they sent to escort it was large enough to blockade a planet. Illyri crystal ships, Varrock war barges, Calvar siege cruisers all moved together in silent formation. Their combined firepower enough to erase a civilization in a single day. Admiral Sarith had argued for subtlety, and this was the compromise sinned. Emissaries with smiles, but keep weapons aimed squarely at Earth's heart. The official line was simple. They were coming to negotiate terms for humanity's peaceful integration into the Galactic Council. The unspoken truth. The terms would be surrender or destruction. Light years away, Earth's deep space sensors caught the incoming fleet before it even crossed the outer edge of the solar system. In the secure briefing chamber beneath the Rockies, President Morgan sat at the head of the table, her hands folded, her eyes cold. They think they're intimidating us, she said flatly. They don't realize they've just handed us an audience. General Ward leaned forward. You mean, let them come? Morgan nodded. Oh, we'll welcome their delegation. It's full honors. But every broadcast, every channel, every signal feed in the Council's territory will see exactly what happens here. It wasn't about warships or firepower now, it was about perception. The Council thought they could scare humanity into submission, Morgan intended to make them fear Earth's resolve. When the alien fleet finally arrived, it hung in Earth's orbit like a wall of steel and shadow. The delegation descended in a sleek obsidian vessel, its hull etched with golden symbols of 100 alien empires. The moment they stepped onto the landing platform, the air shimmered with the heat of cameras, drones, and news feeds. The lead envoy, an Alari named Valor, spoke first. His voice was like liquid crystal, smooth and cutting. Humanity will surrender its military assets, its orbital defenses, and all technologies deemed dangerous to the stability of the galaxy. Compliance will be rewarded. Defiance will. He let the word hang in the air. President Morgan stepped forward, her expression unreadable. Defiance will what? The silence stretched. The cameras never blinked. Council's delegation had expected fear, hesitation, maybe even desperation. Instead, they found themselves standing before a leader who radiated something colder-confidence. Morgan smiled faintly. You've crossed half the galaxy to threaten us on our own soil. I hope your journey was worth it, because you will leave here with one message for your council. Earth does not surrender. The declaration hit like a shockwave. The alien delegation froze, their translators clicking softly. It's somewhere high above in the waiting fleet. Admirals and generals watched the feed in growing unease, and then, as if to underline her words, the skies lit up not with weapons fire but with the silent, ominous passage of 3 massive human warships emerging from stealth orbit. They were black as the void, their hulls bristling with weapons the Council had never seen. The ships moved into position above the alien fleet like predators circling prey. Valor's composure faltered. Is this a threat? Morgan's smile never changed. It's a reminder. The broadcast went live across the Council's territories within the hour. Billions watched as the so-called primitive humans stared down the most powerful alliance in the galaxy without a flicker of fear. In some worlds, the footage was censored. On others, it spread like wildfire. Admiral Sarith, watching from the Council's core world, felt the shift like a storm front breaking. The galaxy had come to intimidate Earth, and instead, Earth had just taught them how to be afraid. Inside the Galactic Council's grand chamber, the atmosphere was heavy with tension. The broadcast from Earth still played in fragmented loops across private holoscreens. Each delegate watching President Morgan's defiance on repeat. The humans had not merely refused, their refusal had become entertainment for billions, sparking discussions, admiration, and in some cases, dangerous sympathy. The Calvar representative slammed a clawed fist against the polished obsidian table. They mock us. The entire galaxy now questions our authority because of one insignificant world. Across from him, Admiral Sarith leaned back, studying the reactions. Some delegates were furious, but others were hiding something. He recognized the careful neutrality in their eyes. It was the look of leaders quietly reassessing the balance of power. The Varick warlord broke the silence. We should end this now. Strike Fleet could sterilize their surface within hours. But the Zyth delegate, an ancient skeletal figure draped in silver threads, spoke slowly. If you destroy them, you confirm their narrative. That we fear. Them, Sarith's mind raced. The humans' defiance was bad enough, but the appearance of those 3 black warships had changed everything. No one in the Council had identified their class or origin. They didn't match any known human ship. Designs from the last intelligence sweeps. Which meant, they have technology we haven't seen before, Sarith said, his voice cutting through the chamber. Technology they were confident enough to show in front of our fleet. Does anyone here believe they would reveal their best weapons first? Silence was answer enough. In the shadowed observation balconies, Council analysts and strategists whispered to one another. Was it possible Earth had been hiding its true capabilities for decades? That their apparent late entry into the galactic stage was a deception? And then, a representative from the Threxian Combina species notorious for calculated neutrality spoke in a tone that made the chamber freeze. Perhaps we should consider an alliance with the humans before another empire does. The words were poison in the ears of the more aggressive factions. Shouts erupted. Threats were hurled. The chamber descended into chaos, far from the Council's eyes. Deep within, a a fortified research station in orbit over Varian Prime. Sareth's most trusted intelligence officers reviewed stolen telemetry. From the human warships, the readings were impossible. Energy output far beyond known reactor designs. Shield harmonics that bent incoming scans. Even the thermal signatures hinted at some kind of reactor that shouldn't exist. One analyst looked up from the data, pale with realization. "Sir, if these readings are correct, a single one of those ships could take on half our fleet." Sarith didn't respond immediately. He was already thinking several moves ahead. The council would keep debating, but someone had to prepare. For the worst, meanwhile on Earth, President Morgan stood at the edge of a high cliff on a windswept coast, speaking quietly to her military advisor. "They'll come back," she said. "And next time they'll bring more than words." Her advisor nodded. "We'll be ready." The ocean roared beneath them. Overhead in high orbit, the black warships drifted silently, watching the stars, like hunters waiting for prey. And somewhere deep in the cold, between galaxies, something else was watching all of them. The skies above Earth were deceptively calm. But in the black ocean of space beyond the moon's orbit, fleets were moving. The Galactic Council had voted by a narrow and bitter margin to discipline humanity with a show of force. Hundreds of warships from more than 30 species converged in silent formation, their weapons primed. The plan was simple: overwhelm Earth's defenses in minutes, seize its leaders, make an example of them. But Admiral Sarith sat on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the tactical map, uneasy. Everything about this felt wrong. The humans wanted them to come, their military. Posturing their refusal to negotiate it wasn't the behavior of a species truly outmatched. It was bait. And Sarith was starting to wonder if they had just stepped into the trap willingly. Moments later, the first phase began. Council destroyers pierced Earth's defense perimeter, expecting to crush automated satellites and intercept drones. Instead, the satellites didn't fire. They moved. Thousands of them shifted position in perfect synchronicity, forming a vast geometric pattern in orbit. Then they vanished. No explosion, no retreat. It's gonna slipping into some kind of space folding. Effect none of the Council ships could track. The sudden absence of targets confused the forward fleet, and that's when the black warships appeared. 3 became 10. 10 became 50. They materialized without jump signatures, without detectable energy spikes. Their weapons weren't just energy beams or missiles, they were light itself, condensed into streams that bent around shields like water finding cracks in stone. Council destroyers went dark in seconds, their power systems overloaded, their crews cut off from communications. Sarith's cum officer looked terrified. "Admiral."
"Oh."
"They're not killing the crews. The human weapons are disabling ships one by one." Before he could respond, every ship in the sector was hit by a wide-spectrum transmission. It wasn't in any known galactic code. It was English. A calm human voice spoke. "This is the Defense Authority of Earth. You have violated our space. Your fleets are now under our control. Stand down or be removed." On the Council command ship, chaos broke out. Warlords screamed for counterattack, but their ships no longer responded. Massive carriers were now drifting, their engines unresponsive. Somewhere deep in the fleet, an entire battle group had simply vanished, swallowed by the same space-folding trick as the satellites. But just as Sarith was about to order a retreat, every screen on every ship lit up with a different image, one that froze even the most. Hardened veterans? It was not human. A massive, organic-looking structure the size of a moon was emerging from hyperspace beyond Saturn. Its surface pulsed like a living thing, and around it swarmed thousands of needle-like ships. Sensors tried to scan them, but the results came back corrupted, just noise and static. The human voice returned, sharper this time. "Council forces. You're about to learn why Earth doesn't bend the knee. That thing isn't here for you. It's here for all of us." A pause. Then, almost like a challenge, "If you want to live, follow our lead." In that moment, Sarith realized the truth. The humans hadn't prepared for war with the Council, they had prepared for something worse. And now, The only question was whether the Council's pride would allow them to survive. The first alien swarm ships broke formation, accelerating toward the crippled Council fleet. Human warships surged forward to intercept, moving with a unity and speed no one had seen before. Earth's defenders weren't just fighting, they were commanding the battle. And somewhere in the middle of the chaos, Sarith felt something he never expected to feel toward humans. Respect, because they weren't laughing anymore, they were saving the galaxy.